The snow fell silently, blanketing the quiet suburban street in a soft, choking white. Christmas lights flickered on every house, but at Alex's, the glow seemed uneven, like the bulbs were struggling to keep the darkness at bay. A distant carol drifted through the frozen air, warped and slowed, as if coming from far away, or somewhere it shouldn't be. Alex stepped onto the porch, brushing a flake of snow off the railing. The quiet stretched too long. Then a faint, distorted laugh, high-pitched and brittle, echoed from the shadows between the houses. Heart thudding, Alex squinted into the darkness. Nothing. The front door creaked. Alex's breath caught. The wind had been still, the street empty. A Christmas ornament, bright red and delicate, rolled off the railing on its own. It bounced once, twice, and stopped at Alex's feet. A shadow flickered across the frosted window. No one there. The snow crunched under unseen footsteps. The echo of boots, slowing, then stopping. Directly outside the porch, Alex's phone vibrated in the pocket. Unknown caller. Hesitant. Trembling, Alex answered. A whisper hissed through the line, half words, half static. "They are coming." From the corner of the eye, movement. A figure just beyond the street lamp's weak halo. Alex blinked. The figure was gone, but the shadow remained. A neighbor's voice called from across the street, low and trembling. "They say Christmas brings them back. You shouldn't be out here." Alex's fingers tightened on the phone. The wind rose, and somewhere unseen, a laugh, low, wet, satisfied, answered back. The snow had stopped falling, but the cold lingered, sharp and penetrating, biting through the warmth of Alex's thick jacket as they crossed the driveway. The house was quiet, too quiet, except for the faint hum of Christmas lights strung haphazardly across the front porch. Normally cheerful, tonight the red and green bulbs seemed off, flickering at irregular intervals, like a heartbeat struggling to find rhythm. Alex shivered, though the wind was absent. Inside, the familiar smell of pine and cinnamon should have been comforting, but it was drowned out by something heavier, a metallic tang that didn't belong, hanging in the air, subtle but unmistakable. Alex set down the small bag of groceries and listened. Silence. Not peaceful silence, but the kind that presses against your eardrums until every creak of the floorboards sounds like a scream. The first sign was the ornaments. Alex had carefully placed the delicate glass balls along the mantelpiece, arranging them by color, size, and weight. Now, one had rolled off, resting on the carpet at an odd angle. They bent down, picked it up, and froze. Tiny scratches had appeared along its surface, scratches that hadn't been there before, etched in a pattern too deliberate to be random. A soft knock at the door made Alex jump. Heart hammering, they peeked through the frosted glass. The porch was empty, except for the swirling snow drift left behind from earlier. They exhaled slowly. Perhaps the wind had shifted. Perhaps it had been nothing. "Alex." The voice was hesitant, strained. Emily, their younger sister, standing just inside the doorway. Her face was pale, her eyes darting toward the living room. "Yeah. What is it?" Alex asked, trying to sound calm, but the tightness in their chest betrayed them. Emily's lips pressed into a thin line. I thought I saw someone in the window." She paused, lowering her voice. "Down by the street, a shadow. It moved. But no one's out there." Alex swallowed hard. Probably just a trick of the light. "You know, Christmas shadows." Emily didn't smile. It didn't feel like that. They moved together toward the living room, the warmth of the fireplace struggling to reach the corners where shadows clung stubbornly. Each step seemed louder than it should have been, and the faint scent of burning pine lingered, though the fireplace hadn't been lit yet. Alex's eyes fell on the package by the door. Small, wrapped in old-fashioned paper, tied with a faded ribbon. They didn't remember ordering anything. Carefully, they untied the bow and peeled back the paper. Inside rested a snow globe, small and pristine. But the image within made Alex's blood run cold. It was their house, snow falling gently around it, but inside a figure stood in the living room watching. Alex's hand trembled. "Emily, did you?" But Emily had already backed away, her fingers clutching the edge of the sofa. "Move. Don't touch it." I just..." Alex reached out, but the globe wobbled, then rotated slightly on its own. The figure inside shifted. Just a little, but enough. Did it move? Emily whispered. Alex nodded, voice tight. I think yes. A low, almost imperceptible tapping came from the kitchen. 1, 2, 3 taps, then silence. Their stomach churned as they realized the sound was rhythmic, deliberate, not the random creak of a settling house. Alex. Maybe we should call someone, Emily said. Her words were breathless, barely audible over the sudden rush of wind through the chimney, though the fireplace flue was closed. Alex shook their head. No, we need to see what it is. If we ignore it, maybe it goes away. But even as the words left their mouth, they knew it wasn't that simple. Something about the house felt wrong, like it had shifted just slightly in ways that made familiar corners unfamiliar, familiar furniture slightly alien. The phone rang. Alex jumped, nearly dropping the snow globe. The screen flashed an unknown number. With a shaky hand, they answered. A whisper hissed on the other end. They are watching. The line went dead. Emily gasped. What does that mean? Alex didn't answer. They couldn't. Their eyes had drifted to the living room mirror. At first, it reflected the room normally, the two of them standing there, pale and tense. Then, for a brief second, a dark shadow crossed behind them. A figure too tall, too thin, impossibly still. When Alex blinked, it was gone. The silence that followed was heavier than any storm. The kind of silence that presses into your chest, that makes your ears ring, that makes the blood in your veins feel sluggish. Outside, the snow had started again, soft flakes falling in near-perfect silence. But Alex couldn't shake the feeling that the quiet wasn't empty, that the shadows had noticed them, that the warmth of their home was no longer protection. Emily shivered. Alex, I don't like this. Maybe we should leave. Alex stared at the snow globe, the figure frozen inside, small and dark. Their own reflection stared back in the glass, eyes wide, breath fogging the surface. We need to know what's happening, Alex said, voice firm but hollow. We can't ignore it. Not tonight. A faint, rasping laugh echoed from somewhere deep in the house, soft and cruel, brushing against their ears like fingertips. The lights flickered violently, then went out, leaving only the moonlight reflecting off the snow outside. And then, a whisper, clear and icy, coming from the hallway beyond the living room. Welcome home, Alex. The snowstorm outside had grown heavier, blanketing the neighborhood in a suffocating white that muffled every sound. Alex couldn't tell whether it had been minutes or hours since the whisper in the hallway. The house no longer felt familiar. Each shadow seemed to pulse, expand, as if watching, waiting. The snow globe sat on the mantelpiece, its figure dark and still, or perhaps only still until you weren't looking directly at it. Alex moved through the living room cautiously. Each floorboard groaned underfoot. The smell in the air was sharper now, like burnt pine mixed with iron. The ordinary warmth of Christmas lights did nothing to soothe the chill that crept from their chest into their limbs. Emily followed, pale-faced, eyes darting. I swear I just saw it move again, Emily whispered, clutching a blanket around her shoulders. Alex nodded without speaking. Their thoughts were tangled, desperate to rationalize. The wind, a trick of the light. Stress. But deep down, they knew it was something else. Something that had been waiting for this night. They went to the kitchen to grab something, anything to feel normal. But the drawers had opened slightly on their own, utensils crooked, a knife lying with the tip toward the floor. The fridge hummed louder than usual, and the calendar on the wall, normally mundane, had a single date circled in black ink, December 25th. The date of tonight. Emily jumped. Alex. It wasn't like that before, right? Alex shook their head, swallowing hard. No. I don't remember marking that. The feeling of being watched intensified. From the hallway behind them came the faintest tapping, like fingernails drumming across wood. Alex froze. The sound moved closer, then retreated, then closer again. It knows we can hear it. In that moment, a memory flashed. Childhood Christmases long ago. Alex remembered running down a snowy street, a snowball in hand, laughing. But the laughter was off. Too hollow, too echoing. In the corner of their eye, shadows had moved, impossible shapes fleeting behind tree trunks. A neighbor had shouted a warning, "Don't touch the house when the shadows stir." At the time, it had seemed like nonsense. Now it was a warning. Alex and Emily moved toward the study. Inside, the room was lined with old family books and photographs. Something in the photographs made Alex's stomach twist. Every Christmas past featured a dark figure in the background. Vague, shadowed, sometimes behind a tree, sometimes peeking from a window. Something had always been there watching, invisible to everyone else. Emily gasped, pointing at a framed photo on the shelf. "Alex, that figure, was that you?" Alex leaned closer. The figure was taller than any child, thin, its face obscured. But the posture, the way it leaned forward, it mimicked Alex's stance. "I don't remember anyone being there," Alex muttered. From the window, a low scratching sound began. First faint, then growing in rhythm, like claws scraping across glass. They both spun toward the window. The snow outside was swirling violently, yet nothing could be seen in the white haze. And yet, the sound continued, coming closer. Emily's voice trembled. "It's outside." Alex shook their head. "No. It's inside. It's inside us." A sudden crash from the kitchen made them both jump. The snow globe had fallen off the mantelpiece, shattered, the figure inside now fragmented, its tiny arms frozen mid-motion as if trying to claw its way out. Pieces of glass reflected the flickering lights, and in each shard, Alex could swear the figure had multiplied. Hundreds of tiny silhouettes, all staring. The telephone rang again. This time, Emily screamed before Alex could answer. "They're calling us from inside the house." Alex picked up. The voice was clear, low, and deliberate. "You can't stop us. You never could." Then static. Then silence. Alex dropped the receiver. "Emily, we need to leave. We need to get out now." But as they moved toward the door, it wouldn't open. No matter how hard Alex pulled, the knob turned to nothing. The hallway behind them stretched unnaturally, longer than it should have been, corners curling away, shadows pooling like thick ink. Emily clutched Alex's arm. "It's warping the house. It's alive." They backed into the living room. The Christmas tree lights flickered violently, casting grotesque, dancing shadows. One of the ornaments, a tiny silver angel, flipped upside down by itself. Then, as they watched, the other ornaments began to rotate, turning toward them. It wasn't the room turning. It was the room watching them. Alex's mind raced, the fragments of memory combining with the current horror. Every year, every Christmas, the same strange occurrences. Stories whispered among neighbors. Disappearances, objects moving on their own, faint, distorted laughter drifting through snowstorms. The old caretaker at the local cemetery, decades ago, had muttered a chilling warning. Every 10 years, the shadows come back. The family can't hide. They find what belongs to them. A soft knock echoed from the back of the house. Not a knock on a door, on the walls, on the floorboards. Something was tapping, pacing, marking time. Alex couldn't look away. Then came the whispers, too soft to distinguish words at first, growing clearer. "You cannot leave tonight." Emily pressed against the wall, tears streaking her face. I can't. I can't." Alex grabbed her arm, voice firm despite the panic clawing at their throat. "Listen to me. There has to be a way. There has to be a way to stop this." But even as they spoke, the television flickered to life, static hissing across the screen. Through the snowy interference, Alex saw it, another shadow impossibly tall standing behind them, reflected in the darkened glass. It wasn't moving toward them, it already was there. Watching, waiting, patient. Alex's hands shook. They thought of the snow globe, the shadowed figure frozen in its glass prison. It hadn't wanted to be seen. Now it had been freed. A sudden bang came from the attic. Dust fell from the ceiling. The air thickened, almost tactile, pressing down, constricting. Alex and Emily exchanged a glance, and for a moment both felt the same terrifying thought. The house itself was alive, and they were trapped within its twisted heartbeat. A whisper came from the hallway again. "You shouldn't have opened it. You shouldn't have looked." Alex remembered the story from the old neighbor down the street, the one who had disappeared years ago. Objects rearranging themselves, whispers from walls, shadows that mimicked movements. It feeds on fear. It waits for the family to remember, to invite it back. Emily's voice broke the silence. Alex, I think it knows us. It knows everything about us. Alex swallowed, trying to summon courage, trying to anchor themselves to logic, to reality. But the memories, the shadows, the whispers, they all pressed in. The figure in the snow globe, the flashes from old photographs, the scraping at the windows, everything connected. The horror was inevitable. It had always been there. And tonight it was awake. From somewhere deep in the house, something breathed, low, wet, deliberate. A sound not human yet familiar. Alex felt it move through the walls, through the floors, through the very air they were breathing. The shadows shifted violently, merging, twisting into shapes that should not exist, but did. Alex realized with a sinking heart that it wasn't only watching. They were part of it now. Every thought, every memory, every fear had been catalogued. The entity was patient. It waited for Christmas, waited for fear, and it thrived on it. The first scream came from the basement, distant but piercing, cutting through the snowstorm's muffled silence. Emily screamed in response, and Alex realized it wasn't coming from below. It was inside the house, inside them, echoing from somewhere deeper than the walls. And then, as they turned toward the staircase, every mirror in the hallway reflected something impossible. Hundreds of Alex and Emilis, each staring back, frozen mid-motion, mouths open, eyes wide, screaming silently. The house breathed, creaked, and exhaled. And in that exhale, Alex understood. The entity wasn't outside, wasn't in the shadows. It was the house, and the house had been waiting for them all along. The storm outside raged on, but Alex and Emily no longer noticed. There was no escape. Not now. Not ever. The storm outside had intensified to a furious howl, snow lashing against the windows with a biting, stinging wind. Inside, the house was alive, every shadow moving independently, twisting in impossible ways. The walls pulsed, expanding and contracting as though breathing. Alex's chest felt like it was being squeezed by unseen hands, the weight of the house pressing in from every angle. Alex! It's everywhere, Emily whispered, clutching the armrest of the couch as though it might keep her anchored to reality. Her eyes darted toward the hallway, where shadows pooled unnaturally, thick as tar. It's in the walls. It's looking at us from the mirrors. Alex swallowed, voice tight. I know. I see it too. A low guttural rasp echoed from the attic above, the sound resonating in the floorboards beneath their feet. It was neither wind nor animal. It was deliberate, patient, malicious. From the staircase, a shadow descended. Not a normal shadow cast by light, but a tall, fluid silhouette that moved with impossible speed, bending around corners, stretching unnaturally. Its edges shimmered, dark and wet, like ink in water. Alex froze. Emily gasped, pressing herself against the wall. The shadow whispered, a voice like scraping metal over skin. You cannot leave. You cannot hide. You invited us back. Alex's hand shook. I didn't invite you. The shadow seemed to smirk, though it had no face. Didn't you? You opened the globe. You remembered the past. You called us home. The house groaned as if in agreement, the floorboards vibrating underfoot. The walls warped, corners stretching into impossible angles. Every door led back into the same room, the living room where the Christmas tree's ornaments spun like tiny planets orbiting a grotesque sun. Emily screamed, Alex! It's taking everything. Look. Alex turned and saw the mirrors lining the hallway multiply, reflecting hundreds of impossible versions of themselves, mouths frozen in silent screams. The reflections moved independently, leaning forward, pressing against the glass as if trying to escape. We have to do something. Alex shouted, panic rising, but their voice seemed swallowed by the room. The house absorbed it, twisting it into whispers that echoed from all directions. From the attic came a sudden, deafening crash. Dust fell like snow from the ceiling. The lights flickered violently, then died. Total darkness enveloped them. The only illumination was the faint glow from outside, moonlight reflecting off the snowstorm, casting long, distorted shadows into the living room. Emily sobbed. I can't. I can't. Alex grabbed her arm. Listen to me. You have to stay with me. Focus. Focus on something real. A laughter erupted from the corners of the room. Wet, desperate echoing coming from above, below, all around. The shadows on the walls twisted, crawling, merging into a single enormous form. Alex could feel it in their chest, their bones vibrating with the weight of it. The television flickered to life without warning. Static, snow distorted images of their house. Rooms they didn't recognize, corners warped, shadows standing where none should exist. And in every frame, a figure, impossibly tall, thin, its head tilting unnaturally. You can't stop us, it whispered, this time inside Alex's head. Never. Alex doubled over, pressing hands against their temples. No, no, I won't let you. Emily screamed as the floor beneath them split, a jagged line ripping across the hardwood. From it emerged a black tendril, coiling, snaking toward them. Alex grabbed a chair, trying to block it, but the tendril passed through it as if it were nothing. You're not ready, the entity whispered. It was everywhere. Inside the mirrors, inside the walls, inside their own minds. You've been waiting, but now you belong to us. Alex's vision blurred. The room seemed to fold in on itself. Ceiling became floor, floor became wall. The Christmas tree's ornaments spun faster, blurring into streaks of light, reflections of their own panic mirrored endlessly across the warped surfaces. Emily cried out, Alex, it's inside me. A voice, guttural, rasping, seeped from the walls. Yes. Take her fear. Make it yours. Alex reached out to grab her hand, but the hand that touched theirs was cold, clammy, and not human. The shadows leapt from the corners, enveloping them both. Panic surged, primal and inescapable. Alex's mind reeled. Memories of childhood Christmases flashed, shadowed figures in photographs, warnings shouted through the snow, laughter too hollow to be joy. I can't. Emily sobbed, collapsing to the floor. You can. Alex screamed, though doubt tore through their words. You have to fight it. The tendrils, the shadows, the whispers, they coalesced into a singular presence before them. A towering, impossibly thin figure, head cocked at an unnatural angle. Its eyes, if they could be called that, were voids, reflecting everything and nothing at once. It spoke, not with words, but with a sound like metal grinding over bone, vibrating directly into their skulls. You are ours, it rasped. You always were. Alex felt something inside snap. Memories, fear, panic, hope, all blurred into one sensation of suffocating dread. The air pressed down, and the walls of the house bent closer, stretching impossibly, like the world itself was trying to crush them. Emily screamed. Alex! I can't breathe. Alex grabbed her, trying to anchor her to reality. Stay with me. Stay, fight it. The figure moved, and the shadows obeyed, spreading across the floor, crawling up walls, seeping into the ceiling. Alex tried to block it, tried to fight, but the entity was inside them, inside Emily, inside every corner of the warped house. Then came a sound, a soft, almost forgotten sound, the laughter of a child. Faint, distant, echoing from the past. It was a memory Alex had suppressed, a moment of joy untainted. The shadow recoiled slightly, hissing, spitting static through the air. Focus on it. Alex shouted. Remember the light. Remember the snow. Remember laughter. The entity shrieked, a sound that tore at the air itself, vibrating through their bones. The shadows writhed violently, tendrils lashing, mirrors cracking, ornaments exploding into splinters. The house itself groaned, walls shivering as though resisting the intrusion of memory, light, and emotion. Emily clutched Alex's hand. I remember. Her voice strengthened, trembling but firm. The snow, the laughter, Christmas with Mom and Dad. A shimmer of warmth pulsed through the room. The shadows recoiled. The entity's whispers became fragmented, broken. It had not expected resistance, not from remembered love, not from hope. Alex's mind strained, fighting against the suffocating darkness. "We're not yours," they shouted. "We are still here." The figure writhed, screaming, tendrils retracting, the mirrors cracking violently. Dust rained from the ceiling as the house seemed to convulse. Snowlight filtered faintly through the windows, washing over the living room like a shield. But even as the shadows shrank, the whispers didn't disappear. They lingered, faint, curling around the corners, a promise rather than a threat. "We'll be back. We always come back." The entity dissolved into the shadows, leaving a silence so deep it roared in their ears. Emily slumped against Alex, sobbing, exhausted. The ornaments had fallen, shattered. The snow globe was gone. The mirrors reflected only the two of them, alone, trembling, victorious, but hollowed. Alex looked around the room. The house was still warped, still pulsing faintly, as if it had breathed through them. They had survived, but the price was clear. The memory of the entity would remain, and the house, though quiet, was not truly empty. Something had watched, learned, catalogued their fear, and waited. Emily whispered, voice trembling, "Alex, do you think it's gone?" Alex swallowed hard, staring at the walls, shadows stretching but no longer moving on their own. I don't know. We survived. But I don't think it ever leaves." "Not really." Outside, the snowstorm eased slightly, the world muted and white. Inside, Alex and Emily sat amidst broken ornaments and shattered mirrors, the remnants of a house that had almost consumed them. And somewhere in the very corners of the living room, faintly, almost imperceptibly, the sound of whispers returned. "Next year. Next Christmas." Alex shivered. The entity's presence lingered, and they knew the truth. Survival was temporary. It had retreated, not vanished. And when the time came, it would return, patient as ever, waiting for fear to awaken it again. The storm had passed. Outside, the snow lay thick and silent, softening the world into a deceptive serenity. The neighborhood glimmered under streetlights, peaceful and bright, as if the night's horrors had been nothing more than a fevered dream. But inside Alex's house, the air still carried a chill that burned through clothing, sinking deep into bone. Alex sat on the living room floor, knees drawn up, staring at the broken ornaments and splintered mirrors. Emily leaned against the wall, still shivering, hugging herself tightly. Their breathing echoed unnaturally in the silence, every exhale sharp and deliberate. The room was quiet now, but the shadows lingered in corners, faint and unthreatening yet palpably present, as if waiting for recognition. I can't believe we made it," Emily whispered, voice trembling. I thought it would never stop." Alex shook their head slowly. "We survived. But barely. And I don't think it's gone. Not really." The broken snow globe lay in shards on the carpet, the glass glinting dully in the moonlight. Alex crouched down, picking up a fragment. Inside, they could just make out the figure, the shadowy silhouette frozen in mid-motion. Somehow, even in shards, it felt alive, watching. The memory of the attic, the basement, the hallway mirrors, the whispers, all of it pressed against their minds. The house no longer felt like a home. It had been altered, warped in ways beyond comprehension, leaving a permanent imprint of fear. Emily's voice cut through the silence. Do you think anyone else saw it? Neighbors? Or was it just us?" Alex didn't answer immediately. They thought of the neighbor who had disappeared years ago, of the whispered warnings, of childhood memories once dismissed as imagination. It wasn't selective. It didn't care. It waited for fear, for recognition, and now we had given it both. A soft creaking echoed from the hallway. Alex froze. Emily's eyes widened, and for a moment neither moved. The house was quiet, but the faintest traces of movement, the subtle rustle of shadows, the whisper of air against walls, suggested that the entity's presence hadn't fully receded. It had been patient before, and patience was eternal. Alex spoke slowly, trying to steady themselves. We leave. We pack. We go somewhere far away. It might still follow, but staying here, it will never stop." Emily nodded numbly. I can't imagine living here ever again." The two moved through the wrecked living room, stepping carefully over splintered ornaments and shards of glass. Each step echoed in the silence, each creak of the floorboard a reminder that the house had been alive, and perhaps still was. The walls themselves seemed to breathe with them, contracting and relaxing in slow, deliberate rhythms. Alex paused at the hallway mirror. The glass was cracked, spiderwebbing across the surface. Their reflection was fractured, multiplied. Hundreds of tiny versions of themselves, mouths open in silent screams, eyes wide with terror. The memory of the entity's invasion of their mind flashed violently in Alex's mind. The tendrils, the whispers, the mirrored reflections that had moved independently. "Alex, don't look," Emily murmured. It's like it's in the mirrors." But Alex couldn't help themselves. The broken reflections stared back, impossibly numerous, frozen in the last moments of terror. And for the briefest instant, Alex thought they saw movement in the cracks, a ripple, a shadow shifting as though something was trying to emerge. Shaking their head, Alex turned away. "We can't stay. We just can't." They gathered what belongings they could in a haze of fear and exhaustion. Each movement was deliberate, careful, as though the house itself was observing their every action. The air was heavy, thick with the residue of past terror, clinging to skin and clothing. Every familiar object seemed alien now, tainted by memory and darkness. Emily stumbled slightly, and Alex caught her. "Careful," Alex whispered. It's still here." She nodded silently, teeth chattering. Together, they made their way to the front door. The snow outside glimmered invitingly, a world washed clean, a stark contrast to the twisted, haunted interior they were fleeing. As they stepped into the cold night, Alex paused, looking back at the house. The broken windows reflected moonlight, shattered ornaments glittering like frost. For a fleeting moment it appeared normal, silent, empty, a home again. Then a whisper drifted on the wind, faint but unmistakable. "Next year, next Christmas." Alex's heart froze. Emily clutched their arm. The shadows that lingered in the corners of the house, though invisible from outside, seemed to twist and pulse as if aware of their departure. The entity had retreated, but the presence was permanent, like a mark left on the house, on them, on everything they had once believed safe. They walked to the car, snow crunching beneath boots, lungs burning in the freezing air. The street was empty, quiet, except for the occasional sound of wind rattling distant decorations. For a brief moment, the world outside seemed ordinary again. But Alex knew it wasn't. Nothing could ever be ordinary again. In the car, Emily shivered violently. Alex draped a blanket over her shoulders, hands trembling. "It's gone for now," Alex whispered, though the words sounded hollow even to their own ears. Emily shook her head, staring out the frosted window. "For now," she repeated, voice tight. "I don't think it ever really leaves. Not completely." Alex knew she was right. The house, the shadows, the whispers, they had been patient, methodical, immortal. Tonight had been only one confrontation. Survival didn't mean safety. It meant postponement. They had glimpsed something eternal, something that thrived on fear and memory, something that could wait century after century, for the next Christmas, the next invitation. They drove away slowly, headlights cutting through the snow, leaving the neighborhood behind. Streetlights blurred into streaks of gold and white, snowflakes drifting in the glow. The wind howled around the car, and every so often, Alex thought they heard faint laughter riding the storm. Not carried by the wind, but inside, around them, a memory of horror that refused to dissipate. Hours later, they stopped at a diner on the edge of town. The neon lights buzzed, casting a sickly glow on the snow outside. They sat silently, exhausted, staring into mugs of coffee that had long gone cold. Words felt useless now. The terror, the invasion, the suffocating fear, they carried it within them, lodged deep in memory and muscle. Emily finally whispered, "Do you think anyone would believe us?" Alex shook their head. "No. And even if they did, it wouldn't matter. It doesn't need belief. It only needs acknowledgement. And we've given it that." A long silence followed, heavy and reflective. Outside, the snowstorm had lessened, but the world felt smaller, fragile. Alex thought of the house they had fled, the walls that had breathed, the mirrors that had multiplied their terror. They thought of the snow globe, the shadow frozen inside, and the soft, insistent voice promising its return. They both shivered, realizing that the nightmare was not behind them. It had been carried within, a seed planted in their minds, waiting. The terror had been survived, yes. But at what cost? Fear, memory, and inevitability lingered, stitched into their very being. Hours later, as they drove farther from the neighborhood, a small figure watched from the corner of a distant snow-covered street. Motionless, black, thin, barely distinguishable from the shadows of the trees, it seemed almost like a child frozen in snow, but taller, impossibly still. And then, as the car lights passed, it vanished, leaving only a faint whisper carried on the wind. Next year, next Christmas, we'll be back. Alex's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Emily pressed close, silent. They had escaped the house, but they had not escaped the entity. It had marked them, and it waited. For all the years to come, every holiday, every Christmas, would carry the echo of that night. The shadows, the whispers, the suffocating inevitability. And the snow, silent and white outside, held them in its reflection, as if watching, remembering, and promising that the nightmare was not over. Even when dawn arrived, weak and pale over the snow-covered world, it could not wash away the unease, the dread. Every light flickered suspiciously. Every shadow lingered too long. Alex and Emily were alive, yes, but forever hollowed, forever aware that the entity could return at any moment, patient, eternal, inevitable. They drove on, leaving the town behind, but the memory of that Christmas night clung to them like frost on skin, permanent and impossible to remove. The house, the shadows, the whispers, they had survived physically, but in every heartbeat, every glance at a cracked mirror or flickering light, they would remember. Some nightmares do not end. They wait. And they always return.